Welcome to Monday. It's December 13th, 2021. Well, folks, the last 4 to 5 days, very interesting, especially in parts of the Intermountain West, especially in parts of Wyoming where big winter storm conditions late last week, then combined with hurricane force winds, keeping Interstate 80 closed for the majority of the weekend and causing roads and highways in other parts of the Central Rockies to be a real problem. Now, we will start off the week, though, mild and breezy today and into Tuesday. We get basically downslope or Chinook winds east of the Continental Divide. So that's going to make temperatures in the 40s and 50s east of the Divide today and tomorrow. And, of course, there'll be some windy areas, although the wind isn't going to be quite as bad today through Tuesday as what we've seen. But then we've got a problem with some wind again on Wednesday, and we'll show you that here in a minute. We have a strong west coast front going to very quickly swing through the Rockies during the day Wednesday. The speed of the storm will negate it becoming a big storm for the plains, but again, the mountains are going to be big winners. And I tell you, the west coast is going to see a significant amount of rain and snow. We're going to see mountain snow in the central and northern Rockies, very windy on the plains, and it's going to be windy in eastern Colorado and western Kansas and into the panhandles. We'll show you that here in a minute. Folks need to watch out there. Much colder air comes in on the backside of the system on Wednesday. We have an active pattern for the mountains through the weekend. We're going to add to the snowpack. The base on those ski areas across the Intermountain West will get built up some more. On the plains, keep your expectations in check. There's just not a lot of snow, especially along the front range of Colorado. It looks like we're still going to be more downsloping east of the mountains while the high country gets snow. Christmas week starts quiet, but we could have a stronger, colder storm system arriving right around Christmas Eve, Christmas Day. We put a question mark there because it's pretty far away. That's 12 days from now, but it's something that we'll keep an eye on for you. We're going to talk a little bit also at the end of this podcast about the tornado outbreak that hit the Midwest over the weekend. Here's today's satellite photo. And you see these clouds right here over the Pacific Ocean. These are very indicative of very cold air aloft over the Pacific waters like this. And cold air aloft with moisture, you push it into the mountains of the West Coast, you bring it into the coastal areas, and it's going to be a big producer of precipitation. You can see another big swirl there north of the Aleutians as storm systems are lining up in the North Pacific, queued up to come into the western United States. Here it is. Here's that pocket of very cold air. This off the coast of British Columbia and Washington State. This system initially is going to bring a westerly to southwesterly wind flow into this region here. So our temperatures are going to be mild. It's going to be a little bit on the windy side. We'll have some high mid-level clouds. This is a Chinook situation east of the mountains. While this storm is going to then push in very strongly by tomorrow afternoon. This is a broad area of cold, moist air that'll just bring a very wet pattern to the Pacific Northwest and all the way down into Southern California. Then as we get into Wednesday, notice this is tomorrow afternoon. This is noon Wednesday. It is moving fast, very fast. Also, we're going to zoom in on this here in a minute. Notice the axis of this trough is trending northwest to southeast. We call this a negatively tilted trough. And when that happens, you can have some unexpected weather form in this vicinity here because a negatively tilted trough sends a lot of upper level energy to the southeast part of the storm. And what sometimes happens is that you get a lot more weather than the models forecasted when you have a negative tilted trough. Then you can see there's another wave here. There's another wave here. We're queuing up the other one north of the Aleutians, and the winds aloft are starting to come in from the west and northwest. So we go from a mild regime today, wet west coast tomorrow, then the system comes through on Wednesday. And here we are zooming in a little bit more closely to this system. You see the close packing of these lines here? A very strong temperature gradient means a very strong wind gradient is going to be forming right here in the upper levels. This is going to be producing on the backside of the system some winter weather like this on Wednesday, then powerful winds along and south of I-70. Look at these wind gusts. These are forecasted wind gusts throughout the whole High Plains region through Wednesday afternoon. along and south of I-70. Look at those winds. And I think these are all completely within the realm of possibility. So folks down there, be ready for a very, very strong wind again. So if you got to travel I-70 in eastern Colorado, you could have some real problems with the winds. This is the precipitation forecast through Thursday afternoon, and you can see the heavy precipitation in California. But look at the Great Basin. Look at the Wasatch Front of Utah, western Wyoming, Jackson, into Idaho Falls, into the upper Green River Basin, Pinedale. You're finally going to get some snow. Even a little bit of snow up here in the Bighorn Basin. A nice shot of snow in the northern Bighorns. And then we're going to see some decent snows in the mountains of Wyoming and Colorado. Look into eastern Oregon and into Idaho. So this is a very wet western system, but notice along and east of the divide. And this is again going to be a problem to where you're just not going to have an easy time getting any big snow yet for Denver or Colorado Springs. And notice this dry area goes down into New Mexico and here. This is going to be a persistent problem, I think, here for most of the winter. This is going to be a dry area, I'm afraid to say. The more north you go, the better the opportunity for snow is going to be, especially over the next 3 or 4 weeks. We could still have a Colorado front range storm. Not saying we won't, but at least here for another week, we won't see it. It'll be the mountains and areas west of the divide that get the snow. And look at those snow totals across some areas of the west. A little bit of snow across the plains of eastern Wyoming and the Dakotas and across areas of Nebraska. Zooming in on California, these are forecast through Thursday, just through Thursday in inches. 4 to over 6 inches of water equivalent in the Sierra Nevada. And then even some 6-inch rain forecast amounts, 3 inches plus along the coastal areas, even down into Los Angeles, even down into San Diego, even in towards Las Vegas. Look at these snow forecast totals just through Thursday. As you get into the higher Sierra, that is a forecast of over 100 inches of snow. Will it be that much? We'll see, but I think 7, 6, 5 feet of snow, 5 to 7 feet of snow is possible there. And even into the mountains of the Great Basin, it's going to snow. Then Thursday afternoon, this is Wednesday system moving up out of the Great Lakes. There's another little frontal wave there, a little frontal wave there. Here's another one coming in on northwest flow. This is a perfect pattern to keep the snow going in the mountains. Here's another little wave that comes through on Sunday. Again, I'll keep talking about this. It's the mountains that get the bulk of the snow in this pattern. Then, as we look out, this is looking at the 23rd of December. We have a similar pattern to where we have now. A big pocket of very cold air along the coast of British Columbia, another period of wet weather headed to California and the Intermountain West, and this low is likely going to swing into the Central Rockies right around Christmas Eve or Christmas Day. A lot of question marks on the path and the intensity, but it's a situation we'll need to keep an eye on for Christmas week. And if we were to show you the whole look from the northern hemisphere, looking down on the North Pole here, it's like you're looking from space. In earlier podcasts, we talked about a blocking pattern possibly setting up in December to where you get a big ridge in the eastern Pacific and a big ridge building up towards England. And what that does is it concentrates the cold air across a good swath of North America, a good swath of Europe. And so you're going to see some much colder weather evolving in the European continent and the North American continent as we go further and further into December. Very cold over here as well, as these are anchor points, the high here and the high here. And again, blocking patterns, which this is a typical situation that happens during La Niñas. Blocking patterns tend to build up and can be persistent. So we are going to be forgetting about our very mild November in a week or two. We're just going to completely forget about it. Now, I wanted to touch briefly on the tornado outbreak, the horrible outbreak of tornadoes that happened over the weekend. This is the same front. This is a satellite photo from this weekend. This is the same front that came through here that brought us our winter weather late last week. One thing to remember that a lot of folks say, well, you shouldn't have tornadoes in December, and that's really not true. There's 2 severe weather seasons, spring and summer, and then early winter in the Midwest and the southeastern United States. What I'm showing you here are wind, hail, and tornado reports for that outbreak that happened over the weekend. Thing to remember about this time of year, the Gulf of Mexico is still warm. warm water temperatures, and that's what the orange here is showing, sea surface temperatures that are a bit warmer than normal. So you still have a warm, moist air mass that's available this time of year. That's why December tornadoes happen. That warm air hasn't cooled off yet. There haven't been big cold fronts to cool off those Gulf of Mexico waters. And then you had the Arctic air come in, and you had basically the perfect setup. You had a collision point between those air masses to make that all come together. Now, if you were to look at where we are for the year, this black line is your average tornado count, and this is where we are for the year. So it's actually been a below average year for tornadoes. And also notice, if you were to look at the graphs, you can see that as we go into December, there's an uptick. There's an increase in tornado activity in the month of December. It's counterintuitive. You just don't think about December as the month of tornadoes. It's not that you get a lot of them, but you can have them. And if you were to look at the historical trends based on the time of year, you can see historical precedent is there for tornadoes in the Midwest and the Southeast. Have yourself a good Monday. We've got lots to talk about as the week wears on. Have yourself a good Monday. We'll see you on Tuesday.